Welcome to Ellie Goldsmith's Inspired Flow. We're going to continue to talk about the Unity Inspires concert as the concept goes and grows, and people are slowly sending in their emails and of interest and Facebooking and all the other things. And we're reaching out to hopefully some big people to invest and be involved and sponsor, all that good stuff. We've got a long list of artists that we're going to refine and make look professional and everything. The main thing is the energy. People feel a need for unity. And a big question that comes up that I want to address for the next, one or two podcast sessions, and you're welcome to once again share your inspired flow, is I want to discuss how we can make unity through the internet. Being that it's, become part of our life now. When I was a little boy, and even when I was a young teenager, the internet really wasn't so important. And we're talking about even in the 90s, it just wasn't there, and it just wasn't relevant, like an email here and there, but whatever, It became incredibly relevant from the year 2000. Everyone knows the history. And then during the beginning of that, I actually took time out. So when it became relevant, I wasn't there, and only when Facebook was getting massive was I then introduced through my students, and they named me the Midnight Rabbi and said, you got to get out there, especially when I started doing the music events and involved with programs and helping them get hold of investment sponsors for their music programs and the mitzvahs I helped set up and all that stuff. So now I suddenly had to be online, and just as it was all kicking off with Facebook and YouTube, my friends were like, yeah, you got to get on that stuff. So I've been doing it, and it's now we're talking about, let's say 13, 14 years later, maybe even a bit less, so it's 10 years, because I did take a bunch of years out. And, so I've got my network, and it works. I mean, a lot of it you have to pay to play nowadays, and I don't pay because, I have organizations that pay for me or for them, and I help them. But I don't have to pay to play, which is a big thing. But then there's also different, all the time, new apps and new opportunities, like with WhatsApp is a massive step forward in the communication world. And we're seeing that it's now going to become one of the prominent networks, Instagram, and we got LinkedIn, it's a much more professional network. And we're seeing that, as these new networks open up, maybe they'll also become, once again, pay to play as time goes on. But in the meanwhile, the one thing that's current throughout all of this is a person individually has a voice, and like there's Twitter and there's all these other places. Even I wouldn't discount blogging and WordPress. I wouldn't discount really anything that has had an impact, because it's still there. Maybe MySpace. I mean, truthfully, I never got involved with that, and some of those old school stuff that nobody really touches, or Google Plus didn't really take off, but. People still throw things here and there, or maybe it's in some circles it's useful. But bottom line is, for me, is that current flow, that ability to actually interact with an individual. And that was the Das Torah, that was the guidance I was given. That's why I stepped away from doing more larger events. My Rabbonim, my advisors at that time, told me that I have to work on the individual relationships with people. And I think that's what I've been doing generally. I did have artists and tours, and I did go out there, and thank God there was a communal aspect, because I believe in it very strongly. But the individual focus, and I think that is really the key to the communal, that through the real relationships that we focus on, then we have ability to really form, like community has come unity. This idea of forming unity through the different ways of communication. So what I want to say is that each person has a tremendous power to inspire through those different channels, if it's done in a legit, real way, not spamming and being annoying, but actually communicating. And we all have to work on that. I'm not saying I've been perfect in the approach, and this is the whole thing. It's a learning curve, and I'm happy to talk to people about it and consult on it and even help them. But I do feel that the actual face-to-face experience, meeting people, is still superior to everything. So please God, we'll have those opportunities, everybody listening, to meet in person. That's the consultancy aspect, or the friend aspect, or the family, or there's always, Baruch Hashem, we can host people for Shabbat. Then comes the fear factor, or what about the internet taking over your life, becoming addictive, and all the different isurim, all the forbidden aspects of seeing things you shouldn't, and affecting your holiness and your dedication to true values of marriage and relationships that are holy and positive and bring beautiful souls in the world, and your children and everything like that. All the big fear factor that's unfortunately been proven to be a real issue. We have now the opportunity, each person to speak to their own rabbi or advisor or whoever you go to for your own conscience or soul, which I'd be careful with, because we do have tendency to hear what we want to hear and do what we want to do. So we have to be careful with our own personal decision making, solely being based on that, other people in our life, and we can't just be responsible for our families and friends and just think that we always are going to make the most objective decisions based on our intellect. To be honest, in a real way, cheshbon nefesh, like we talk about from Rav Arush, the idea of Gedalia Fence talks about as well, taking real decisions on yourself, and but then it comes from a real introspect through your relationship with a higher force. The 12 steps nowadays has proven that's the only way to keep off all the addictions, and that's included with the internet. And then with all that said and done, I do feel that we have to focus once again on the positive, on the power to be mashpia, to positive ability to influence, to make a unified network of people that really communicate positively and clearly. The boundaries are there, the relationships are strong, the trust is built, and the ability to constantly develop projects and move on without having to go backwards all the time because of lack of trust. Or this is something which I've struggled with a few people. I'm much more prone to posting and putting out stuff when some people might not want to, and now I'm got to the point where I actually don't care about the posting. I care more about the relationship, the trust. I'd rather not have a viral post. I'd rather have a friend. I'd rather have, and not that I even got those viral posts from the posting, it wasn't even such a big issue in the end, but still the point is that people are nervous, people are protective, and they need to be respected, and just giving that trust and connection a priority, and doing, repenting on the times where that wasn't done. That's something which I've, through the learning curve of being online, I've realised that that's more important, the relationships. And I hope that anyone listening to this who was those people or knows those people, and I've reformed my relationships with those people, thank God. I don't think any of them actually hold grudges at me anymore and have any distrust, because I did try and prove myself and go about it right. I'm not saying I'll always get it right. It's a challenge, because for me it's not about getting the post, the viewage, the fame and all that rubbish. It's about using their powerful message to get a message out there, and people aren't always willing. I'm not justifying it, I'm just explaining. They're not always willing to put it out there for whatever reason. And in the end, I do see most of them, thank God, it will come back to that point where they realise that, they can be proud to be who they are, they can put it out there, and they do. But initially they want control on it, and they don't want it coming from somewhere else, and maybe nervous people are trying to take advantage of their fame or whatever, which is true on a certain level. But the reality is, me personally, I just want unity so much. I want us to get to that point where we're together. So I will do it respectfully now, because that's the only way we're really going to get there. I'll do it with proper values. But the point is that the drive, the motivation to put out there content that gets people focused on truth, relationships, unity, values, and so the internet is filled with that. So we have a unity concert, for example. We have a live aid, but in the Jewish world we have an opportunity to showcase our value system and our music and our spirituality, and through music is a powerful tool to unify people. And it's something which I don't think has been done fully. Everyone's trying on their level, but we need to do it in a much more sophisticated professional level, with the backing of holy people that should come together in a higher cause, and it should join the world to understand that that all this unfortunate negativity that's very strong in the world right now, it can actually be battled in a public forum. It doesn't always have to be behind the closed doors and through praying and doing acts of kindness, and it's all just very private. It's something which can be done on a public forum. and it has been done before, and it's done successfully with a lot of effort. And like if you look at any Live Aid documentaries, when they made their concert, they were not organized, everything was a mess, everything was all over the place. And so there's nothing stopping us with an organized approach, and still with the things that are going to be obstacles, to go ahead and do it. So that, I feel the internet is the same kind of tool to unify the world in a positive way, if used in that way. And anyone, once again, wants to talk about it, like I personally have set up my phone in such a way, and I'll discuss this more tomorrow, but it's like, introduction to it, like it's only there to serve me to grow, and not to waste my time, and not to distract me from my larger values. And I'm trying to do that all the time on so many levels, with the bombardment of information, but to get it down to what's really going to help me in my growth and my family and my larger goals. And the phone should just be a tool for that, and should never distract from that approach. And if I sometimes feel like I've lost balance, so then, for example, I'll put the money where my mouth is. I'm willing to give up jobs, I'm willing to change focus for the sake of my larger value system, and that means maybe being less involved with people's social media that they're asking me to run. And I'll step back and say, you know what, I'd rather do something else, which is less social media involved, because I don't want to be on these phones so much. I'm actually enjoying right now this screen status thing where they send you weekly reports. My screen time right now was down 8% last week for an average of however many hours and minutes a day. So that is amazing for me to see that I'm getting in more control of my use of the phone and not being controlled by it. And that is something which, once again, I believe that is what the chance, the task of all of us is to do. And with all this technology and all this tools, is to transform it into something which serves a higher purpose and a unified purpose. So I'm going to end off, it's been a long rant, and I'm going to talk more about it in specific details tomorrow about with the phone use. But then we'll get back into the Unity concert. But my hope is that people will share this, because and I'm not trying to be controversial. Everyone should go speak to their own advisors. I'm not taking responsibility for anybody. That's my I'm not trying to be a rabbi or a leader in that respect. I'm just giving out the information and the examples that people can then go work it through and decide themselves with their whatever system they use to do that. And anyway, so with that, we'll end off. Let's hear your inspired flow and see how it will flow together ultimately to become unified.